My friend, when I first began teaching martial arts, I believed the greatest battlefield was the Kune, the training hall where bodies clash and techniques are mastered. Later, I discovered the battlefield was the mind, where our internal struggles shape our external reality. But now, I understand that the true battlefield exists in a place far more profound, the realm of consciousness itself. You see, in my earliest days, I taught my students to punch through boards, then through their limitations. But today, I must teach you to punch through the very fabric of your reality. The opponent you face is not your body's resistance, not even your mind's doubt, but the very patterns of consciousness that create your experience of life itself. Let me share something I discovered in my deepest moments of meditation and combat. When you throw a punch, there are three elements: your fist, your target, and the space between. Traditional martial arts focus on the fist. Modern combat focuses on the target. But the true master understands that power lies in the space between what I now call liquid consciousness. Think of consciousness not as water that simply adapts to its container, but as the force that shapes the container itself. In my own journey, I remember the moment this truth revealed itself. I was training with my wooden dummy, movements I had performed thousands of times. But in one moment of perfect clarity, I realized the dummy wasn't teaching me about combat. It was teaching me about the nature of consciousness itself. Each movement wasn't just a technique, but a way of sculpting reality through awareness. You see, in this modern battlefield, your greatest opponent isn't throwing punches. It's throwing thoughts, emotions, patterns of being that trap you in invisible cages. The chains that bind you aren't made of iron, but of unconscious habits, of rigid perspectives, of limited awareness. This is why I no longer just teach my students to be like water. I teach them to become the force that moves the water. My friend, when I broke through traditional martial arts to create Jeet, Kune, Do, I wasn't just breaking through physical limitations. I was breaking through the boundaries of consciousness itself. Now, I understand that Jeet, Kune, Do isn't just the way of the intercepting fist. It's the art of intercepting the very patterns that create your reality. This is why I say to you, the greatest fight of our time isn't fought with fists or feet, but with awareness itself. Every moment is an opportunity to break free, not just from physical constraints, not just from mental barriers, but from the very patterns of consciousness that limit your experience of life. This is the new battlefield where true mastery is achieved. And just as I once challenged the traditional ways of combat, I now challenge you to move beyond traditional ways of being. The next evolution in martial arts isn't about faster punches or stronger kicks. It's about expanding the very consciousness through which you experience reality itself. My friend, let me share with you the three elements of modern combat that I've discovered through years of evolution in my practice. These are not just techniques, but gateways to a new way of being. First, the mind as water. You see, when I first taught the principle of being water, I spoke of physical adaptability. But now I understand water holds a far deeper truth. Water doesn't just adapt to change, it creates change. When water flows consistently, it carves canyons through mountains. This is what I call dynamic intention. Let me demonstrate this truth. Take a glass of water and disturb it. The water doesn't just accept the disturbance, it creates ripples that transform the entire system. This is how your consciousness should work. When life presents a challenge, don't just adapt to it. Create ripples of transformation that reshape your entire reality. This is the power of conscious fluidity. The second element is what I now call the new Jeet Kune. You see, in traditional Jeet Kune, I taught you to intercept the physical attack. But in modern combat, you must learn to intercept thoughts before they become emotional prisons. Just as a skilled fighter reads physical telegraphing, you must learn to read the subtle signals of your own consciousness. Here's the truth I've discovered. Every emotional reaction, every mental pattern has a moment, a precise point of inception. If you can catch a thought at this point, just as you would catch a punch at its starting point, you can redirect your entire emotional state. This is mental pattern interruption at its most powerful. Let me give you an example from my own journey. When I first faced discrimination in America, my initial pattern was to respond with anger. But I learned to intercept this thought pattern at its source. Instead of being trapped by the emotion, I learned to catch the thought, like a skilled fighter catching a punch, redirect it, and transform it into fuel for innovation. This is breaking the invisible prison of automated responses. And now the third element, what I call the modern one-inch punch. You've seen me demonstrate the physical one-inch punch, where maximum impact comes from minimal movement. But today's one-inch punch is about consciousness. It's about finding the precise point where the smallest shift in awareness creates the greatest transformation in life. Think of it this way. When you throw a physical one-inch punch, the power comes from the unity of your entire body in a single moment. In the same way, when you align your consciousness, your thoughts, emotions, and intentions, even the smallest action can create massive change. This is the unity of intention and action. My friend, I discovered this truth during deep meditation. Just as a small stone can create ripples across an entire pond, a single moment of pure consciousness can transform your entire life. This is why I say, the modern warrior's greatest power isn't in the strength of their techniques, but in the precision of their awareness. You see, in the physical one-inch punch, there's no wasted movement. Every fiber of your being moves in perfect harmony. In the same way, when your consciousness is perfectly aligned, there's no wasted energy. Every thought, every emotion, every intention works together to create powerful change. This is the essence of modern combat, not fighting against external forces, but mastering the subtle elements of consciousness itself. When you understand these three elements, dynamic intention, mental interception, and conscious impact, you begin to see that the true battlefield isn't in the physical world at all. It's in the moment-to-moment choices of your awareness. My friend, when I first spoke of the classical mess, I was fighting against the rigid traditions of martial arts. But today, we face a different kind of classical mess, one that exists in the very way we process reality itself. You see, just as traditional martial arts trapped fighters in rigid forms, today's mind is trapped in rigid patterns of thinking. These are the new kata, the predetermined sequences of thought that we follow blindly. I'm not good enough. This is impossible. This is just how things are. These are the invisible prisons of our time. Let me share a profound truth I've discovered. The classical mess isn't just in what you think, but in how you think. Most people are trapped in what I call pattern loops. They face a challenge, react the same way, get the same result, yet expect something different. This is the modern straitjacket of consciousness. Think of your mind like a teacup. The traditional teaching says, empty your cup to receive new knowledge. But I say, why remain a cup at all? The cup itself is the limitation. Your consciousness doesn't need a container. It needs to become limitless, like the sky. This is what I mean by transforming the container itself. Here's what I learned in my deepest moments of understanding. Every time you say, this is just how I am, you're reinforcing the walls of your mental prison. The modern classical mess isn't about physical limitations. It's about self-imposed boundaries of identity. I'm an angry person. I'm not creative. I can't change. These are the chains we must break. My friend, breaking free from today's classical mess requires something more subtle than physical force. It requires what I call pattern recognition awareness. Just as a martial artist must recognize their telegraphing moves, you must learn to recognize your automated mental responses. This is where true freedom begins. When you catch yourself falling into old patterns, remember this truth. The prison isn't the pattern. The prison is the belief that the pattern is you. You are not your thoughts, not your reactions, not your habits. You are the consciousness that can observe and transform all of these. This is why I now teach, don't just break the old patterns, transcend the very need for patterns. Become like the wind that moves freely, taking any form yet bound by none. This is the ultimate liberation from the modern classical mess. My friend, there comes a moment in every warrior's journey when they realize that adapting to change is not enough. You see, I once taught you to be like water, but now I understand that true mastery lies in becoming the force that moves the water itself. Think of consciousness as an ocean. Most people float on the surface, reacting to every wave that comes their way. Some learn to dive beneath the waves, finding calm in the depths. But the true master learns to generate the waves themselves, to become the force that shapes the entire ocean of experience. Let me share a deeper truth. In my early days, I thought mastery was about perfecting the self. Then I understood it was about expressing the self. But now I see it's about transcending the very concept of self. This is what I call conscious evolution. You see, when you throw a punch, there's a moment where the doer, the doing, and the deed become one. This unity, this is the secret of transformation. Most people live their lives separated, their thoughts in one place, their actions in another, their being somewhere else entirely. But when you align all three, you become not just the artist, but the art itself. This is why I say, don't just master techniques, master transformation itself. Every moment holds the potential for complete reinvention. The butterfly doesn't just adapt to its cocoon, it completely transforms its reality. This is the level of change we must embody. My friend, true power isn't in resisting change or even flowing with it. It's in becoming change itself. When you reach this state of consciousness, you no longer see obstacles. You see opportunities for transformation. Every challenge becomes a gateway to evolution. Remember this truth. The highest form of martial arts isn't about fighting against or even flowing with. It's about conscious creation. You are not just the practitioner of the art. You are the artist, the art, and the canvas itself. This is the ultimate integration of being and doing. This is the art of conscious evolution. Not just becoming better, but becoming more conscious. Not just transforming your actions, but transforming the very consciousness that creates your reality. My friend, let me share with you the daily practices that will transform these principles from philosophy into lived experience. Just as I once taught the daily training of the body, now I teach the daily training of consciousness. Begin each morning with what I call the consciousness pulse check. Just as a fighter must know their stance before engaging, scan your mental and emotional state before facing the day. Notice your thoughts, your tensions, your automated patterns. This awareness itself becomes a tool of transformation. Throughout your day, practice what I call pattern interruption breathing. When you catch yourself in an old reaction, stop. Take one conscious breath. In that space between stimulus and response lies your power to choose differently. This is emotional fluidity in action. For mental pattern recognition, use what I teach as the 3-second reset. Every hour, take 3 seconds to ask yourself, am I operating from pattern or presence? Just as a punch has its telegraph, your thoughts have their signals. Learn to catch them at the source. My friend, the most powerful practice is what I call reality-shaping moments. Choose one small action each day. It could be as simple as lifting a cup, and perform it with complete unity of mind, body, and intention. This is your modern 1-inch punch practice, training yourself to create maximum impact through minimal but focused action. Remember, these practices aren't about adding more to your day. They're about bringing complete consciousness to what you already do. This is how you transform every moment into an opportunity for evolution. My friend, as we come to the end of this sharing, remember that every master was once a beginner who chose to evolve. The journey we've explored, from liquid consciousness to pattern recognition, from mental Jeet Kune to reality shaping. This is not just philosophy, this is the blueprint for your evolution. You see, just as a caterpillar doesn't need to be taught how to become a butterfly, the power for transformation already exists within you. Your consciousness is not a fixed thing, to be improved, but an infinite force waiting to be unleashed. The practices I've shared are not about becoming something new. They're about awakening what you've always been. Think of your consciousness as a river that's been flowing in the same patterns for years. Today, right now, you have the power to not just redirect that river, but to become the force that shapes the entire landscape. This is not about fighting yourself anymore. It's about evolving yourself. Remember, the ultimate technique is no technique. The ultimate pattern is no pattern. And the ultimate evolution is the moment-to-moment choice to transcend who you've been and step into who you're becoming. My friend, this is my final call to you. Don't just practice these teachings. Become them. Let every breath be a moment of conscious evolution. For in the end, the greatest battle is not won through combat, but through transformation. Now, begin.